right, hello everybody. Again, my name is Zimmermann. I am the program manager at Artadia, and we are here today for the Artadia webinar to discuss the Artadia Awards 2011 Atlanta online application process. I am joined by my colleague, Naomi Miller, our program assistant, who will be fielding questions throughout the webinar. You should be seeing on your screen a little box where you can type in questions. Please do so throughout the webinar as questions arise, and we will be addressing all of those at the end of the webinar. That's so much for technicalities. The webinar is going to be about in two parts. The first part I will be talking about Artadia more generally and about our awards program, and then in part two we'll be looking at the actual online application page for page. So some nice hands-on help there with the actual online application. This is Artadia's second award cycle in Atlanta. I was down in Atlanta for an in-person info session about a month ago, and I was so happy to be back in Atlanta after the 2009 award cycle. There's some terrific energy in Atlanta, so we're very excited to be back for our second award cycle. Lots of new initiatives and new programs, artist-run spaces, and so on. Very exciting energy in Atlanta. So let me start off just by quickly explaining some things about Artadia, and I hope I can actually move forward on my PowerPoint. That's strange. Okay, give me one. We're all new to the webinar, probably, so. There we go. Okay. Artadia's mission is to support visual artists in the communities where they live and work by providing unrestricted awards funds to artists in these specific communities, and by providing a national network of support to increase the exposure for the artists on a national and international level. I also like to explain this as saying we give artists the two things that they need most, which is money and exposure. So those are the two things we try to do. Also, what we do for the cities that we operate is that we provide them with national attention by giving them exposure on a national level. Cities like Atlanta that have a vibrant cultural community, and we sort of help make that known on a more national level. It's really our goal to make it viable for artists to live and work and prosper, most of all, in their local communities. We were founded in 1997, and since then we have provided over $2 million in support to more than 200 artists around the country. A little note on our funding: we were started as a private initiative and have since grown into a national arts organization with a board and a group of very generous national supporters. Our general operating fund is covered by our board and national donors, and then all of our funding, for example, for the City of Atlanta, is actually raised locally, so that all of our funds locally stay within the community. And I just want to also express our gratitude to our donors in Atlanta for the 2011 award cycle, which is the Judith Alexander Foundation, which has supported us from the beginning in Atlanta, the Lubo Fund, and individual contributions by Louis Corrigan, our board member in Atlanta, Robert Bonner, Paul Hagedorn, Lauren and Tim Schrager, and our New York board member, Marie Samuels, who is a great fan of Atlanta. So thank you to them. So what we really try to do in all of our programs is to create opportunities for artists and our network to make new connections and give a platform for exchange. Okay, so that more general to Artadia. So let's look at the actual award cycles. Here we go. Okay, so I want to go through what Artadia's programs, how they work, by taking as an example the 2011 award cycle, and you'll also be getting seeing the dates here for the award cycle for the 2011 awards. So it starts off with an online application, which is open for 3 months. The online application ends September 15th at midnight, so you do need to finish your online application by then. And the online application is, as it is, the word says, is online, to make it as easy as possible for anyone to apply. There's no application fee. You don't need to make slides and so on. So it's we try to make it as simple as possible, so to really give everybody the chance to apply. You'll see on our website too, if you don't have access to a computer and maybe you're there right now, you can go to a local arts organization, Wonderroot, that will help you with the online application. Once you have applied, what follows is a 2-tiered jury process, which allows us to maximize exposure for Atlanta artists to curators across the country. And the first round jury is a slide review in New York, after which 15 finalists will be announced. The first round jury consists of, so each round has 3 jurors on it, 3 panelists, and there's only one panelist that is the same in the first and second round jury, which is the local juror, who is a prominent Atlanta arts personality, if I can say so, who helps in the first round to sort of give context to the artist because the person knows Atlanta well, and then in the second round sort of creates continuity between the first round and the second round. So the other 2 jurors in the first round are different from the 2 jurors that then come to Atlanta for the second round. After the first round, the second round jury is actually comes to Atlanta for 45-minute studio visits with the 15 finalists. Here it's important to remember that finalists, actually the artists who have been picked as finalists, have to be present for the studio visits. The studio visits is an integral part of our awards process. It's very unusual for grants to actually include a studio visit, and it really gives artists a chance to speak directly with curators and for curators to get a chance to actually meet the artist. So artists have to be present for that part of the process. We will be holding a webinar about studio visits September 1st. That will be next week, Thursday. So if you have any questions about studio visits, I recommend you attend that webinar, or you can always, of course, email us about it. So after the second round jury, of the 15 finalists, we select 7 awardees. 2 of those awards are at $15,000, and 5 of the awards are at $3,000. Okay, so but by what criteria are the artists actually selected? And that is actually very simple, or it's very, very clear. It's a merit-based award. So all the work is selected, the awardees are selected entirely based upon the merit of their work. And the range of awardees that have won Artadia Awards really reflects the breadth of the applicants. There is no, we have had awardees of all ages from age 22 to age, I think it was 84. We have had awardees of all educational backgrounds, of all career stages. There's really no criteria. This is Fahamu Peku, for example, just to show you a few artists who have won in the past in Atlanta. Angela West, the photographer. You can see her work here. Or, for example, Dawn Cooper, who won the Judith Alexander Award in 2009. Okay. All right, here a picture, some images from studio visits to give you a sense of what it's like in the actual studio visits. Angela West at the top left, Ruth Tissot is at the top right showing her work, Fahamu Peku, bottom left, and Larry Walker at the bottom right showing his work. Okay, so once you win an Artadia Award, you really join the Artadia family for life, or as our founder likes to call it, Artadia Posse. And so you become a part of our national network and gain access to our network. And we're in contact with with about 90% of our awardees, going all the way back to 1999. And all of our programs are really designed to allow for national exposure of our artists and the award cities we operate in, and to really create opportunities to build contacts, to meet fellow artists, collectors, curators, or gallerists. One of our programs that we inaugurated last year is our Exhibitions Exchange program. What you see here are some pictures of the show of the Atlanta awardees showing in Boston. As you all know, often one can be well known locally in the city that an artist lives and works in, but not known outside of that community. And so our Exhibitions Exchange program, which brought the Atlanta awardees to Boston, and is bringing the Boston awardees to San Francisco, for example, really allows for that new national exposure. You can right now see at the Atlanta Contemporary, you can see the second part of the San Francisco awardees showing in the show called Material Deposits. And we really use that weekend, for example, as well to bring the Atlanta artists together with the Boston artists. As you'll see in that bottom middle image, we had just a little brunch in the studio where the Boston artists and the Atlanta artists had a chance to exchange and meet each other. So just one example of all the small ways as well of how we try to bring people together. We also have a national publication that is also, as the Exhibitions Exchange program, generally supported by the Warhol Foundation. And the national publication brings together 2 years of Artadia awardees. You'll see some of the names on the cover from Atlanta. And accompanies the spreads about the artists are accompanied by critical essays for each city. The one in Atlanta was written by Andrea Barnwell-Brownlee, for example. And this publication we sent out to over 400 collectors and curators around the country. It's currently also on the shelves of around 15 museums around the country. So really allowing for people to learn about Artadia awardees around the country. Another program we have, which was started in 1998, was not 98, excuse me, 2008. I'm getting the decades mixed up. Is our New York Artist in Residency program, which allows artists, Artadia Awards, this is open only to Artadia awardees to apply to, and it allows Artadia awardees to come to New York for 3-month residencies, work in an international context, and make contacts in New York without having to actually move to New York and being able to go back to where they live and work. In addition to these more formal programs, we also host over 50 programs a year around the country because Artadia is called Art and Dialogue. So we have curatorial roundtables, we have artist presentations, and events, small and big ones, just to allow, again, for personal introductions, giving artists exposure around the country. We also have smaller one-on-one meetings with curators. For example, the Whitney biannual curators come to us every other year to get a introduction to artists that have won Artadia awardees. So Artadia is really a terrific resource for curators and gallerists and collectors because we have a group of artists that have been acknowledged by top-level curators from around the country. Finally, we also have a number of other kinds of publications. We have, for every art fair in Chicago, New York, and Miami, we do an art fair guide that lists artists and the galleries that represent them and are present at the fair. We also have a monthly newsletter that, we have a artist files online where our awardees can present their work. This is entirely user-generated. It also allows for people to create their own light boxes, people interested in the arts, and to contact the artists. And I recommend that you browse the artist files to see interesting work and learn about the kinds of artists that have won Artadia Awards. Finally, we have a monthly newsletter that goes out to over 7,000 people around the country. And the newsletter features news about Artadia, but also about our awardees, shows that they're currently having awards they've won, just to keep our network up to date on the artists that are within our family. Okay, so, but back to step 1 and going to part 2 of this webinar, the actual online application. Okay, and this is where I'm going to switch over to our website, if I can. Okay, give me 1 second. There, okay. So you can find anything you need to know about the online application on our website. And you can access the online application through our website. And you simply go to our website and you click on For Artists. And here you will see Artadia Awards is general information about the awards, eligibility and guidelines, the deadlines. Here's the actual award application. This is where you click to access the award application. Here's information about info sessions. FAQs is very important to read through. A lot of questions you might have been asked by other people, so that's a good place to check. Here's more information about the New York residency, and down here you'll find a list of our past panelists, which is always interesting to see, just the quality and the breadth of people that have served as jurors in the past. Okay, so let's look at the eligibility guidelines first. So there's a few things that you do have to adhere to when you want to apply. And all of these eligibility guidelines are really meant because we are dedicated to supporting artists in specific local communities. So these requirements are a reflection of that. So you have to live and work in the designated partner cities. You have to have resided in the program city for at least 1 year prior to the application deadline. The application deadline is, as I said, September 15th. And you cannot currently be enrolled in an art-related college or university degree program, nor can you be planning on attending an art-related degree program in the coming year. One more important factor, you cannot be related to Artadia staff or directors in any way. And you cannot have received an Artadia Award for more than $10,000 in the past. If you won an Artadia Award of $3,000, you are very welcome to apply. Okay, so let's go to the award application. Oh, and by the way, here at the bottom, participating cities, this is where you'll see the greater Atlanta area. You will see the 23 counties that we count in the greater Atlanta area, and you need to make sure that you live in one of those counties. Okay, so award application. Okay. So here's more important information that you should read through. Again, a list of the 23 counties, and this is where you click the actual online application. Okay, and this is where you, so first off, very important, you do not have to finish your application in one session. You can log in, start, add a little bit of information, log back out, and then come back to it later. That's very important. So it's very much worth just starting the application early, looking at all the things you need, and then coming back to it later. It's always a bad idea to start things at the last minute. Okay. Also, if you have if you've applied in the past through the system, you can use your own old login information. If you've forgotten your password, you can simply click down here to retrieve your old password. What's important there is that you have not changed your email address in the past, because the information will be sent to the email address that you had when you originally registered. If you have not yet registered, you can simply register here. So I have already registered, so I'm going to type in my login. Yep, that knows me. Okay, and now you click login. Okay, and then you are brought over to this page, and this is where you can create your new application. There. Okay. So here are different things. If you want to email, if you have any questions, you can email here to info@artadia.org. Here is, you get linked back to our website to get more information. This button allows you to just simply view your application, and edit is the one, delete is the one where you can delete your application, which I don't think will be necessary, we hope. And edit is the button where you actually work on your application. Okay. And up here you can see the different pages you have to go through. It's actually 10 pages of application that you have to review. So the first page is really the most important page. Here are the instructions and all of the guidelines for the images and the time-based media for the application. And it's really worthwhile, in this case, to read the instructions carefully. I myself like to glance over these things, but because it is an online system, there are special requirements that if you do not adhere to those, the system won't let you upload images. And it'll make your life easier if you actually prepare your materials adhering to these restrictions. Again, if you have problems with these things, if you don't know what a DPI is or pixels, I just learned all of that recently myself, you can always contact Wonderroot. The information is on our website. I could show you that again, actually. It is right here on the award application. Contact Chris Appleton. Here is all the information, a phone number, and his email address. Okay, so he is very happy to hear from you if you need any help. So up here is all of the information about the images. Farther down here is the information you need about time-based media. The images are all uploaded online on this online application. The time-based media, very old-fashioned, still needs to be mailed into us. It's important you remember that the mail-in date is September 15th, so applications, the time-based media has to arrive by September 15th. Okay, so going to the second page. This is where you add information about yourself and information pertaining to yourself. If you don't have a fax number, you don't need to enter a fax number. And very important on the second page, before you do anything else on the application, you have to decide if you will be, with what kind of materials you'll be applying with. So you can be applying with still images only, digital images right here. You can decide to apply with time-based media only, which is right here, or you can decide to apply with still images and with time-based media. So for the sake of demonstration, I'm going to be applying with still images and time-based media. Very important, so you don't lose anything that you add, to always click Save. Save in Previous, just save your work on that page, or Save and Next. Okay, next page. This is where you add your resume. We recommend that you simply copy and paste from a Word document and not start typing everything into here. That'll make your life a lot easier. You should note that when you copy and paste, the formatting might look strange in this box. Don't worry about that. That is just a quirk of the system. And all of that information gets reformatted automatically by the system and will look fine when the curators look at it. So I'm not going to enter my CV right now. Okay, the next part is, and this can be often the hardest part of a grant application, is the artist statement. And this is something where you should really take some time to think about what you want to say. It's very important for the artist statement to remember that the jurors who are reading the artist statement are really reading it to better understand your work. So be sure to include in the artist statement simply things that you think are important for understanding your work, what you think is important for the jurors to know as they look at the work. And that can depend then very much on the kind of work you do. It might be important to explain the context in which the work was made. It might be important to talk about the source material, or it might be important to talk about the work process or the actual materials used for the work. So all these things, you really need to take some time and think about what is important to explain about your work as you create the artist statement. And here, just as an indication to make it simpler for the panelists, just indicate with SV or SV if you're talking about the still images, the time-based media, the video, or both. Okay. Next comes uploading of the images. And this is where it often just simply gets technically difficult because you'll have not created or made the files exactly the way the system needs it to be. So here what you do is you put in, up here you put the work title, you put the year completed, here you write what medium it is, for example, acrylic on canvas or you know, whatever it might be, the dimensions. This is where you choose your files, and then this is once you've chosen your file. Okay. Just looking for an image, for example. Open. Then you click here to actually upload your file. If that doesn't work, for example, upload file. If there's something wrong with it, you will be notified of it up here in red letters. Whatever you do, for example, so this worked fine, the file uploaded, and it notified me of that up here in red writing. If something is wrong, it'll notify you up here as well. So this you do 8 times. So you apply with exactly 8 images. It can't be less and it can't be more. If you're applying with time-based media as well, you still upload exactly 8 images. And it's important to remember as you upload those images, you should be curating your images a little bit. The panelists will be looking at the images always in sets of 4. The 4 images are next to each other. Starting on the left with image 1, 2, 3, 4 is the first set, and then images 5, 6, 7, 8 as the second set. So as you upload images, that's important to keep in mind so that the 2 sets of 4 work together and tell the story you're trying to tell. Okay. So once you've uploaded your 8 images, you can go to, well, now I didn't. Okay. So here you can view your images again and make sure that everything is in the order that you want, and you would be certifying here that you uploaded your images. Next is, if you decided that you're also submitting or only submitting time-based media, this is the page where you would submit your information. So time-based media can be sound or it can be visual. It can be either. And here you also have the information where to send the material to. Again, here the reminder that you need to send in your application, the time-based media, before the deadline. And again, to make this very clear, you apply, you put in all the information on this online application, and you send in the DVD. And please include, when you send in the DVD or the CD, please include page 2 of the application, simply so that we can link the DVD you sent in with the correct application. And down here you can indicate what media format you're submitting. You can indicate the number of works on the DVD or the CD. For example, it could be 4 works you're submitting, and the total duration of the media of all the pieces together on the DVD or CD. And down here, you list the pieces separately. And always include a brief synopsis of the pieces that you've submitted. Simply with time-based media, it's important to, it'll be helpful to have that information as a context. And very important with time-based media, it also says it up here, is that it says it up here, right here, is that the panelists will look at up to 5 minutes. That means a maximum of 5 minutes is what they'll look at with time-based media or listen to in case it's sound, which means it could be less, it could be exactly 5 minutes. We recommend that you don't put together a 5-minute reel, but rather just submit full pieces that you would like the jurors to look at and give the jurors a chance to skip around in the work on their own. But that's our recommendation. Also, very important, as you put together your DVD or CD, make sure it's player ready. That means once you've burnt the materials onto the DVD or the CD, take it out of the computer and put it in another computer and make sure it's actually working. Those things can sometimes go wrong, and so just to make it easier for us, please make sure that it's actually working. Okay. Now you're almost done, really. Next comes the optional survey. This is, as it says, is optional. We do appreciate it if you fill out the survey. It just helps us better evaluate our program. It's absolutely anonymous. So thank you if you do fill out the survey. Finally, here is where you certify that you live in Greater Atlanta. And finally comes the checklist, where it tells you all the things you're still missing. So I haven't gotten very far at all. There's still a lot of stuff I have to do. And if you go to Go Fix It, you can simply get brought back to the page where you have to add more materials. And then once you've done all of that and there's no more things you're missing, you can submit the application. Please note, once you have submitted the application, you will not be able to make changes anymore. So if you're a little uncertain, sleep over it and finish the application next day. Just make sure it's before September 15th at midnight. And that's it. So I think my colleague Naomi could take over the questions. I don't know if any have come in, Naomi?
There's been a few, yeah. We can, one of the questions I think was to just revisit the help that's available at WonderRoot. So if, Uta, you could go back and show people on the website, you basically go to For Artists at the top menu, and then if you're on the home page, and then go over to Award Application and scroll down just a little bit, and there's information on Chris Appleton, who's the Executive Director at WonderRoot, and he'll be happy to answer your technical questions. Not saying that you can't email us at info@Artadia with other questions, but he's a really good hands-on troubleshooting of technical problems you might have with JPEGs or any video-related questions too. He's our local contact in that area.
Yeah, let me actually qualify that a little bit and say that if you want to, you can make an appointment with Chris to use one of their computers in their media lab, and there will be someone on site to help you with your online application there. So it's rather to call him and make an appointment with him to go to WonderRoot and work in their media lab on your online application. And if you have any technical questions and so on, definitely simply write to info@artadia.org with smaller matters, and contact Chris if you want to make an actual appointment to make your application, do your application at WonderRoot.
Another question is, will both sets of the 4 that you described during the jury review, will they be, both of the 4 be reviewed by the jurors?
Both of the 4?
I guess she just wants to make sure that there are, since you described they're shown in sets of 4.
The 4 images? Yeah, yeah. So the jurors look at all 8 images. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And one other question is about, I'll just actually read it verbatim. You mentioned not sending a 5-minute reel for time-based media. Do you mean that if the piece is longer than 5 minutes, we should just include the entire piece?
Yes, exactly. We recommend that you submit the entire piece in order to give the jurors the opportunity to skip around in the pieces as they see fit, or are interested and curious to watch more. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Okay. And that's why it's important too on the online application, on the media page, to submit short synopses of the pieces that you are submitting.
Okay, great. We do have another question. Do you have a recommendation for the overall images that you send? Should it be one body of work or a diverse selection of work or over a number of years?
Okay, that's a good question and an important one. We recommend that you definitely submit a number of body of works, but we also recommend that you always submit a few examples of one body of work to give the curators a sense of the breadth of that body of work. And it's also, you need to think about your work and what you want to present. If it's important that you've, for the jurors to know that you've worked on many different things, then that might be important to represent. And if you really want the jurors to get in-depth into 1 or 2 bodies of work, then that's definitely also an option. Yes. Oh, you're on mute. Sorry.
Sorry. Is it best to select current work for all 8 of the 8 slides?
Is it best to select current works? The work, I think, definitely it should. You should have current work as part of the application process. But if there's older work that you also want to show, definitely do that as well. But it's always good to see what you've been working on recently for the jurors. Yes.
Another question is, for a studio visit, should all the work you submit to Artadia need to be available for Artadia jurors if they come to your studio?
Okay, that's a good question as well. No, it does not have to all be present. It's totally understandable if you're submitting work that then later gets sold or is not, or in the show or so on. So absolutely no, the work that you apply with does not have to be present in the studio.
Okay. Coming back to the viewing of the images in the sets of 4, are they viewed in 2 horizontal rows on top of each other?
Okay, no, they are looked at in 2 sets of 4, one after the other. So first the jurors look at images 1 through 4, and then the images switch, and they're looking at images 5 through 8.
Okay, great. Are installation shots of a body of the work a good idea?
That really depends on if the image is clear enough to see the work. We recommend keeping the images that you submit very simple for the jurors to be able to grasp very quickly. As you can imagine, we have to go through the images pretty quickly. So the more complicated it is to grasp an image, the harder it is for the jurors to really see the work as quick as possible. So if you installation shots, absolutely, but be sure that they're very clear.
Okay, good. Another question is, should the work reflect your intention as to what you will do if you're awarded an Artadia Award?
Okay, that's a good question too, and very important. No. So the online application, the application and the selection of the awardees is entirely merit-based. It does not. This is not a project-based award. So it does not. Part of the application is not to present a project you will be working on if you win the award.
Here's a more technical question. Is there support for submitting web-based art such as VR/ML or Web 3D? Best experience interactively, not linearly as iVideo on DVD. I don't know if we have the capacities for that.
Okay, so definitely you can apply with those kinds of works. You will have to find a way to either represent that work with still images or by submitting a DVD in which you go through this kind of work. Maybe there's a way to create a short film that allows the jurors to see that kind of work and how it operates.
Okay. I think, let me know if we've already answered this. I think it's back to the installation art question. Installation art is a whole environment, so should they show installation and any details, or can you do an inset picture of a detail within a slide?
That's a good question too. We recommend, again, to keep the images that you submit as simple as possible. Inset images sometimes get too hard to read quickly, so we recommend if you do an inset, then limit it to 2, for example. It's often a much better idea to use 2 separate images to first show the installation and then in a second slide to show a detail, just to make it easier for the jurors to understand the work.
Great. Another question is, will the jurors review past Artadia submissions? So if someone had submitted in 2009, will that be available to the jurors?
No, it won't be available to the jurors. The jurors will only look at the materials submitted for the 2011 application.
Got you. All right, I'm just reviewing. Sorry, this interface is a little clunky to make sure that we're getting all questions answered. There's a collaborative question. There's people who are in a collaboration, and there's studio, and they lead Artist Lives in Atlanta. In one of the approved counties, they plan to use one of the person's name on the application, and I guess one of the persons in the collective doesn't live in the area that we have on our list, but they still work in their Atlanta studio. They plan to apply under, one person who lives in that area's name. Their tax ID and address is in the approved area, but they're wondering if that's a problem.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I think that obviously this is a border case, but I think that is okay in this instance. Very important about collaborative. You have to choose if you're going to apply as a collaborative or if you're going to apply as an individual artist. There are often artists that have both individual practice but also have a collaborative practice. You can't apply as both. That said, as listed in the question, when you apply as a collaborative, if you go here under FAQs, there is a whole piece about collaboratives that sort of explains how to submit the online application so that we have one contact person within the collaborative. Right here is where that explains it properly.
Okay. Moving on to another question. Could you talk a little bit more about the artist statement? Are you looking more for general explanations of the work, theoretical bases, community context, process, and materials, or as much information as possible?
All those things that the question lists are all could be very important things to mention. Again, you have 300 words is your limit. So you have to, that's not a lot. We recommend really thinking about what is most important for the work for the jurors to understand about your work. There's a lot of deciding on your part that has to happen in terms of the artist's statement, what you think is most important about your work. Okay. But all those things that you say could be very, very important things to mention depending on the kind of work.
All right. There's a question about the local judge for the coming award cycle. Why isn't this included in the material? They're asking who the local judge is.
We will announce all of both the first and the second round jurors in the press release announcing the finalists. We don't give out the name of the local juror prior, just simply to not possibly have the impression that people could be in contact with that person before and sway that person one way or another. It's very good in this case to keep that anonymous until after the first round jury to avoid any kind of possibility for influencing the local juror.
All right. Another question back to the slides. What about detail images? Is it worth wasting a slide on a detail?
If the detail is really important to your work, then it's absolutely not a wasting of a slide. We have had artists, I mean, there's work that is very detail-oriented where it's very important to see for the panelists how detailed and how fine the work has been made. So yes, that can be a very important thing to show the jurors.
Right. So depending on the work, I think this artist has a written word in their art. So he was wondering how specific and how important that is.
So yes, if it's important to your work, then definitely it's important to show that to the jurors.
Okay, and there's, let's take just a few more questions. I'm trying to get to everybody's. The question again about residency. Someone who's been living and working in Atlanta for a long-term project, but she's a legal resident of Boston. Is it appropriate for her to apply to the Artadia Atlanta Award?
There, I just bring you back to the eligibility guidelines. It states very clearly that you have to have resided in the program city for at least 1 year prior to the application deadline, which is September 15th in this case. So if that applies to you, then yes, you're eligible to apply. It's for us, it's important that you live and work in the city. It's not important to us where you are legally registered or things like that.
Okay, I will take one more question. And again, if we didn't get to your question, please feel free to email at us at info@artadia.org, and we'll do our best to get back to you within a 24-hour period. I think last question is, do the jurors read only the statements of the selected work, and are all statements read during the viewing process?
The jurors have access to both the CV and the artist statement throughout the entire slide review process in the first round. So yes, they can look at all of that information at any point during the application, during the review process, excuse me.
Okay, great. Great, thank you for all of those answers.
Okay, well, thank you everybody for listening. Again, as Naomi said, feel free to email us at info@artadia.org. We also encourage everyone who had fun at this webinar to join us for our webinar on September 1st. Our guest speaker September 1st is going to be Sandra Jackson Dumont, who's the curator at the Seattle Arts Museum and who also has been a past panelist in Houston. She did the studio visits with the 15 finalists, and she will be answering some good questions about best practices for studio visits. So join us for that. The information of how to sign up is, again, on our website. Other than that, we encourage all of you to be sure to apply. Email us with any questions. Get your application going soon, and spread the word. The more people apply, the more democratic of a process our awards program becomes. Yeah, thank you everybody for listening. This webinar will be posted on our website within the next couple of days, so if you want to revisit this webinar as well, you can do so. All right, thank you everybody.